I still remember the exact moment my life fell apart. It was a typical day, or so I thought. I'd been working long hours at the shop, fixing up totaled cars and dealing with a mountain of paperwork. That day, though, I ended up cutting my leg pretty badly on the edge of a truck. I needed stitches, 39 in total, and was pumped full of painkillers. Driving was out of the question, so I called my wife to come pick me up. She did not answer. Not the first time, not the second time, not even after several texts and increasingly desperate voicemails. After an hour and a half of waiting, I gave up and took an Uber home. As we turned onto my street, I noticed something unusual. There she was, standing on our front porch. But she was not alone. She was wrapped up with another man, kissing him passionately like there was no tomorrow. And it was not just a quick peck. It was the kind of kiss that made your stomach churn when you realized it was not meant for you. I told the driver to keep going, not to stop. My whole body froze and my mind raced. I knew I should feel something, anger, sadness, anything, but instead, I felt numb. I managed to take out my phone and snap a few pictures as we drove by, proof of what I was seeing with my own eyes. When I got back to the shop, I sat in the break room for 4 hours, staring blankly at the table in front of me. My leg throbbed from the stitches, but that pain was nothing compared to the ache in my chest. My world had just flipped upside down, and there was no coming back from it. Later that night, I drove home, every movement agonizing both physically and emotionally. She came home hours later, acting all worried and concerned about where I had been. The audacity! She asked me how my day was, and I bit my tongue so hard I could taste blood. She lied straight to my face about how busy she was at work. I smiled, nodded, and let her dig her hole even deeper. But that moment on the porch, it was the catalyst, the proof I had been looking for. The little signs had been there for months. Her constant texting, her evasiveness, the unexplained overtime. I had brushed them aside, chalking it up to stress or paranoia. That moment shattered any doubts I had left. I decided I would not confront her right away. Instead, I began piecing everything together like some kind of amateur detective. I installed cameras around the house and dug through her devices, syncing her accounts to an old phone she had forgotten about. The more I uncovered, the worse it got. That kiss on the porch was just the tip of the iceberg. It turned out her betrayal ran far deeper than I had ever imagined. Pretending everything was normal after what I had witnessed was like living in a slow-motion nightmare. Every day I had to get up, go to work, come home, and act like I was still part of a happy marriage. Meanwhile, I was fully aware that the woman I had married, the one I thought I would spend my life with, was betraying me at every opportunity. At first, I thought about confronting her immediately. I wanted to yell, scream, demand answers, and throw her out of the house, but my lawyer had a different plan. Not yet, he said. You need to be smart about this. It made sense, but it was the hardest thing I have ever had to do. Day after day, I kept everything bottled up, waiting for the right time to make my move. Sleeping in the same house as her became unbearable. I could not even bring myself to lie in the same bed anymore. Instead, I started sleeping on the recliner in the living room. It was uncomfortable, and my back was killing me, but it was better than being next to her. The nights were the worst. She would try to hug me or kiss me, and it made my skin crawl. I would fake a smile, give some excuse about being tired or stressed, and pull away. She even had the nerve to accuse me of cheating because I would not touch her. The irony was almost laughable, if it was not so disgusting. I had to keep up appearances, though, so she would not suspect anything. That meant enduring her lies and excuses while secretly gathering evidence. The cameras I installed revealed things I never wanted to know. I watched in real time as she brought other men into my house, into my bed. It was surreal, like something out of a bad TV drama. Each time I saw it, it felt like another piece of me broke. I started to notice all the little things that I had ignored before. The way she was constantly on her phone, smiling at texts I knew were not from me. The nights she came home late, claiming she had been working overtime. Even her tone of voice when she talked to me. It was different, distant. I could not believe how blind I had been. The hardest part was not being able to talk to anyone about it. My lawyer told me to keep it to myself, not to let her know I was onto her. So I had to pretend everything was fine when it was anything but. I could not even confide in friends or family. I felt completely alone, like I was carrying this massive weight that was slowly crushing me. Every day was a battle to keep it together, to not let the anger and heartbreak consume me. All I wanted was for it to be over, but I knew I had to be patient. I had to play the long game, no matter how much it hurt. The worst part? Looking her in the eye every day, knowing what she was doing, and pretending I did not know a thing. It was like living with a stranger, someone I no longer recognized, but still had to act like I cared about. And that is a feeling I would not wish on my worst enemy. The breaking point came on a day that started like any other. I was tired, physically, mentally, emotionally. I had not been sleeping, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw her betrayal on a loop. I was barely functioning, and it felt like my entire life was just one endless stretch of pretending. That morning, she had the nerve to start another argument. She was frustrated, accusing me of being distant and cold, even suggesting again that I must be the one cheating. I wanted to laugh, but instead, I just stared at her, letting her rant. She said I was not being a good husband, that I did not love her anymore because I had not told her I love you in months. She was right about one thing. I did not love her. Not anymore. How could I? The real trigger, though, was when she mentioned our wedding anniversary like it was something we should celebrate. I could feel my blood boiling. How dare she bring that up? She was planning a romantic evening, acting as though nothing had happened, as though she was not actively tearing our marriage apart. That was the moment I knew I could not keep this charade up any longer. I spent the rest of the day preparing. I called my lawyer, made sure everything was in place, and confirmed the timing. I packed her things, her clothes, her shoes, the little trinkets she had scattered around the house like markers of a life that had been a lie. It felt cathartic, like I was finally taking some control back. The next day, I woke up early and left before she was awake. I had breakfast at a diner while I waited for her to leave for work. As soon as she was gone, I went home and changed the locks. My friend came over to help, and together we moved her things into a storage unit. It was a strange feeling, packing up the remnants of our life together. Part of me wanted to throw it all out, but another part of me just wanted it gone, far away from me. I even decided to leave a little gift. I bought flowers and chocolates and delivered them to her workplace. She was surprised, even blushing, when I gave her a hug and said I wanted to make our anniversary night one to remember. She had no idea what was coming. At 2 p.m, an officer delivered the divorce papers to her at work. At the same time, I was standing in front of her boss's house. I knocked on the door, and his wife answered. I calmly told her about the affair, handed her a flash drive with all the evidence I had, and gave her my lawyer's card. She was shocked, of course, and I felt a pang of guilt for dragging her into this mess, but she deserved to know, just like I had. When I got home, I changed my Facebook status to divorced. The calls and messages started pouring in almost immediately. Our mutual friends, even her family. I ignored all of them. When she came home that evening, she found the locks changed. She banged on the door, screaming and crying, but I did not answer. Instead, I waited until 7, just like I told her I would. When I finally opened the door, she was furious. She tried to play every card in the book. Tears, apologies, begging, and then anger. She said it was her house too, that I had no right to throw her out. I calmly handed her the key to the storage unit, my lawyer's card, and told her that any further communication would go through him. That is when she snapped. She hit me, a solid punch to the face, and I just stood there, letting her. She tried to scratch me, but by then, the officers I had called earlier stepped in. They restrained her, and I refused to press charges, but I made it clear she was not coming back. As she left, the weight of it all hit me. I was free from her, but it did not feel like a victory. It felt like survival, like I had just crawled out of a wreckage, and honestly, that was enough for now. After the chaos of serving the divorce papers and locking her out, I needed to breathe. The house was finally silent, but it felt too empty, almost suffocating. It was not peace. It was this strange void where everything felt heavier. I decided to take up my ex-girlfriend's invitation to spend Thanksgiving with her family. It was a long drive, but honestly, I would have driven across the country if it meant getting away from the wreckage of my life, even for a few days. I left at 3 in the morning to avoid another argument with my soon-to-be ex-wife. The road stretched on forever, but it felt good to be moving, putting miles between me and the house filled with memories I wanted to forget. When I arrived that night, it was late, almost 10:30. My ex was still awake, frantically cooking for the next day. I called her from the porch, and she came to the door with her husband. Now, seeing her husband threw me off a bit. He looked just as rough as I felt. He had lost a lot of weight, and the exhaustion in his face was hard to miss. We sat at their little kitchen table, and before I knew it, I was spilling everything. Every detail about what had happened, how I had been keeping it all bottled up, and how I was barely hanging on. I did not expect to cry. I had not cried in years, not even when my cousin called to tell me my mother had passed away. But sitting there with someone finally listening, the tears just came. They were not the kind of tears that made you feel better afterward, but they were honest. I had been carrying so much anger, frustration, and heartbreak that it all came rushing out. They listened. They did not try to fix it or offer useless advice. They just let me talk. It was the first time in months I felt like I could breathe, even if it was just for a little while. When the conversation wound down, they offered me their couch for the night. I do not think I even made it through my first thought before passing out. The next morning, I woke up to their 5-year-old daughter trying to suffocate me with a teddy bear. It made me laugh, which felt strange but good. My son woke up a little later, and when he saw me, he ran over, shouting, "Daddy!" He hugged me so tightly I thought my ribs might crack. That moment, seeing his face light up, was something I had needed more than I realized. It reminded me that not everything in my life was broken. For the first time in what felt like forever, I had a moment of pure joy. My son and I spent the day together, laughing, eating, and just being present. He did not know I was coming, so it was a complete surprise for him. Watching him smile and hearing him call me dad made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I was still worth something. It did not erase what had happened, and I knew the feeling would not last forever. But for those few days, I let myself focus on what mattered. Being a father, being there for my son, and reminding myself that there was still a version of my life where I could feel okay again. It was not perfect, but it was enough to keep me moving forward. Coming back home after Thanksgiving was bittersweet. I left my son behind, which was hard, but those few days with him reminded me of the kind of life I wanted to build. One where I was present, grounded, and free from the chaos I had been living in. When I walked into the house, though, it was painfully quiet. The silence I had craved before felt heavy now. It was just me, the empty rooms, and the memories I was trying to shake off. I knew I needed to make some changes, not just to the house, but to my life. The first step was reclaiming the space that had been mine, the space she had poisoned with her betrayals. I scrubbed every inch of that house, from the bedroom to the kitchen, trying to erase the stains of what she had done. It felt symbolic, like I was cleansing more than just the surfaces. The bed was gone, the one she had used with other men, and so was the couch. I replaced them with new furniture, things that felt like mine, not ours. It was a small step, but it made a difference. The next thing I did was adopt a dog. I had been scrolling through a shelter website when I saw her, a tiny Chihuahua mix with a crooked smile and a wagging tail. Something about her just clicked. When I brought her home, she darted around the house like she'd been waiting for this moment her entire life. I named her Dulcie, partly because she was so sweet and partly because I needed something in my life that made me smile every time I walked through the door. She was there, tail wagging, acting like I was the greatest thing in the world. It was a simple joy, but it meant everything to me. I also threw myself into work, partly to stay busy and partly to avoid the thoughts that crept in when I had too much time on my hands. Fixing totaled cars felt almost therapeutic in a way. There was a rhythm to it, a focus that pulled me out of my own head. Piece by piece, I was rebuilding wreckage, not just the cars, but myself. One of the hardest things was cutting off mutual friends. A few of them tried to reach out to mediate or convince me to reconsider how I was handling things, but I could not risk having anyone in my life who still had ties to her. I needed a clean break, even if it meant losing people I had once considered close. It hurt, but it also felt necessary. What surprised me most was how much I started to enjoy the little things again. I took Dulcie for walks in the evenings, something I had never had the patience for before. I cooked meals for myself, meals that were not rushed or half-hearted. I even picked up my guitar again, fingers fumbling chords I had not touched in years. These were not grand gestures or massive changes. They were small moments of reclaiming my time and my identity. Still, there were moments when it hit me, the weight of everything I had lost. I would be sitting in the living room and a memory would sneak up on me. Her laugh, a moment we had shared back when things were good. It stung, but it no longer felt like it had the power to crush me. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was living for myself, not just surviving. It was not easy and it was not always pretty, but it was mine. I was starting over, step by step, building a life that was no longer defined by her or what she had done to me. And even though I still had a long way to go, I could feel the difference. I was finally moving forward. 1 year. That is how long it has been since I served her the divorce papers. A full year since I stood at that crossroads and decided I was done with the lies, the manipulation, and the constant ache in my chest. I woke up this morning feeling different. Not happy, exactly. I am not there yet, but lighter, maybe, like I am finally stepping out of a shadow that has been looming over me for far too long. I started the day with a run, something I had not done in years. The crisp morning air stung my lungs, and my legs burned as I pushed myself harder with each step, but it felt good, cleansing, almost. When I got home, I made breakfast for my son, who is staying with me full-time now. Hearing his laugh as he cracked jokes over pancakes reminded me of what matters most. For all the mess and pain, I still have him, and that is something worth holding on to. Work has been steady, which helps keep me grounded. Fixing cars has always been more than just a job for me. It is a way to make sense of the chaos. Every dent and scrape has a solution, a process to follow. It is comforting, in a way, to know that even when life falls apart, there are still things you can piece back together. Lately, I have started training new hires at the shop. Passing on what I know feels like progress, like I am building something again, even if it is small. Today, though, there was a reminder of the past. Around mid-morning, I got a call to come to the office. Someone had sent me a delivery. Cookies, of all things. As soon as I saw them, I knew they were from her. She has a way of finding little openings to poke at me, as if to remind me she still exists. The office staff asked about them, and I told them they could have them. I do not want any part of her anymore, not even something as small as a box of cookies. The thing is, I expected to feel angry, but I did not. Instead, I just felt indifferent. That was new for me. A year ago, even a few months ago, something like this would have sent me into a spiral of frustration and resentment, but today it barely registered. I think that is a sign of progress, proof that I am finally detaching from the hold she used to have on me. When I got home, Dulcie greeted me at the door, wagging her little tail like I was the most important person in the world. I scooped her up and we went for our evening walk. Watching her bounce around in the fading light, so full of life, reminded me of how far I have come. A year ago, I could not even imagine finding moments like this. Moments where I feel present, content even. I will not lie and say everything is perfect. There are still days when the past creeps up on me, whispering doubts and regrets. But those days are fewer and farther between. I have learned to focus on what is in front of me. My son, my work, Dulcie, and the small victories that come with rebuilding a life from the ground up. One thing I know for sure is that I am not looking back. I have no interest in reopening old wounds or revisiting what could have been. The future might still feel uncertain, but it is mine to shape now. And for the first time in a long time, I feel ready to face it, not with fear or hesitation, but with a quiet determination to keep moving forward.